Hello, my friend. If you're like me, you might have had some times where you're working on a project and been like, this would be cool if users could log in and do some stuff, but auth is hard. And then, maybe I need some back-end side of things, some, I don't know what, because it's back-end and I'm a front-end person and the back-end's scary. And if that sounds like you at all, I completely relate because back-end is scary to me as well. But the other day I was working on this project, which is this theme picker that you can see here. You can change the colors, the contrast ratios are all changing. It was a simple Astro project that I was doing. And I made some preset themes we can switch between and stuff. But I was like, what would be cool is instead of just having this, that like, it's not just presets, but users could log in and then save their own themes as well. I thought that would be a nice little bonus that could be added to it. And then we could have all the community themes and stuff like that. And then basically as I was working on this, there was the Select conference by the folks over at Supabase. And I was like, I'm already using Supabase for a project of mine. Pretty good at simplifying and making the backend stuff a lot easier. I think we could do it here for this one. And I wanted to show you along on the ride. So yeah, the very first thing we want to do is head on over to supabase.com where we can come in. I've already logged in. You will need to create an account and all of that. And you can see here, if you did miss the conference, you can come and watch it. You can watch the replay. The link is at the top right now. But when you're here, you can come in and then just create your account. And then for me, I already have one. So I can come into my dashboard where I currently already have one project set up. And just before we continue going with this, I do want to let you know that Supabase is sponsoring today's video. So I want to give a very big thank you to Supabase for helping support everything I do here at my channel. But the reason that I actually said yes to this is because I'm already using them for my learning platform. It's a fantastic resource. And so when they were offering to sponsor a video here, I was definitely on board with them. So I've come into my organization. I only have the one organization here, and I'm going to create a new project. And I'm on a free account, you can see here. And free accounts, there's a lot you can do with it. The main two issues are you can only have 2 projects at any given time. And the projects, if the database is inactive for 7 days, they'll pause it. So make sure you keep your projects active and then you have no issues. For this one, I'm going to call this one color theme. Yeah, we'll just call it color themes. I think that's completely fine. You do need to also create a database password. This is not the same password you use to log in. This is a password just for the database. I'm going to click generate a password because they give you a handy little copy that you can use. And I'm going to come and paste that into my document that I have off screen so I can always access that later on if I need it. You can choose a region, just choose whatever. It says closest to your users because it's the region. Well, the closer to them it is, the better. So you have a choice of all the different regions you might want. There are some security options. I'm going to leave this on the defaults. You probably want to leave it on the defaults too, but if you know what you're doing, maybe you have a reason to change from those. And in the advanced configuration, again, I'm going to leave it on the defaults, but if you do want to hear a little bit more about the Oriole DB, they did talk about that during the Select conference, but as you can see, it's an alpha and not recommended for production workloads right now. So yeah, we can just leave all of that and I'm going to create my new project. It doesn't take long to get to the next screen. We should get there any second there. There we go. I don't need to save that for now. And you'll see right here, there's a project status. And that project status that's up there, sometimes it'll be orange at the beginning. It just takes a while at times for the project to spin up and then it will turn green and you're ready to dive in and get going, which is kind of cool. Now, I'm going to be trying my best to keep this as generic as possible in integrating into my project that I have, because I am using Astro and there's a few things I could do differently that are Astro specific that I want to avoid along the way. The very first thing I want to do is add auth. I want users to be able to log in. And if we come and take a look at what I currently have, while we're here, let's go to a dark theme just so it's a little bit less bright on our faces. But if I come here and I click this sign in, I already have, I've created a lot of the functionality I need. I just need, how do I make it so when I enter an email address, I can actually create an account? And I'm just going to let you know that here, their documentation is actually really good. So if you come in and you go to their API docs and you start coming through here, they do a very nice, introduction, setting up auth, user management, all of the stuff that you need is through here. And once you create your own tables, those tables in your API docs, they'll have some resources for it there. We're not into table creation yet, but don't worry, they actually make it really, really easy. And that's if I'm sticking in here. If you go into their actual docs as well, there's down here, they have their API reference and their guides. They're both really, really good and straightforward. So the very first things though that we do need before we can get started, no matter what method you're doing, whether it's a vanilla project, you're using React, Astro, just some sort of Vite project, I don't know, but whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to want to come over to your project settings, and there's two things that we're going to need in here. The first one is under our data API. We are going to need this project URL. So I'm going to click copy, and I'm just going to come off screen and paste that. And then the second one we need is under API keys. And if you've never used anything like this, don't worry, it's not scary. There is a public API key here, and there is a service role, and you can see it says secret right here. You do not want to use the secret for many things. For a lot of what we're doing, the public one is completely fine to use, and that makes it really convenient. And the reason that we can do this is there's like this layer of security, row level security, I think RLS, which even though the API keys are public and being used on the front end, there's security measures in place to make sure that nobody's doing anything with the data you don't want them doing. So you can easily limit it from just being read, like nobody could read it if you wanted to depending on the role. So you can have admin access versus regular access, all sorts of different stuff. It's really easy to set up. But I'm going to copy this one right here, and I'm going to paste that one off screen. And then I'm going to go into my project, which let's jump on over to VS Code, and we're going to make this a bit bigger because I need to come into my project files, and I'm going to create an env file. If you're doing this just with vanilla JavaScript, you might take a slightly different approach. If you're using Vite for a React project or Astor, like there's a few different ways. You're probably familiar with env files. So I'm going to do a .env. And in here, we're going to put in two different things. We're going to start with our public, and everything's capitalized, and we're going to use underscores, so supabase. And we're going to say URL is going to be equal to, and we're going to do a public supabase. And I'm going to put anon key because it's our anonymous key that's right there. And then I'm just going to copy that URL right here. And then I'm going to come and copy my key and paste that in right there. And you can see it's really long. We have everything we need. And those are sitting in my env file. The idea with an env file, if you're not familiar with them, is in your git ignore. If you bring something onto Git, that's not actually getting put up there. Most of the time, the things in env files are because you can't share them, because you could give away access to your project and people could do some nefarious things and cause all sorts of problems. So you sort of hide stuff away in your env file. But in this case, both of these are going to be public. It's completely fine for both of these to be used client side. So if you're just in a regular JavaScript file, you could just have like a config.js that you're exporting these from and then importing them in where you need them. So there's lots of different approaches that you could take to using these. But if you do have set up something for the env, then you might as well set it up this way. And I don't need to be running anything, so we're just going to kill the server that I had there. And I'm going to do, actually, let's go to the docs, because you don't necessarily have to do it this way. I'm going to install it. And what I'm actually going to do is let's go over here to project overview. And when I'm in the project overview, if we come down a little bit, you'll see connecting to your new project. And oh, look at that. They made it easy for us. I went the long way. I didn't even realize they were there. Those are right there. That's exactly what I wanted. But if we come a little bit past that, you can see here's the client libraries, and I'm just going to use the JavaScript one. So I'm going to click on docs right here. And this tells us to get started. So I'm going to be, this is what I mentioned. You don't have to do it the same way as me. I'm going to be npm installing it into my project. But if you want, you can also use their CDN, which is also another option, or you can use at runtime with Dino. So let's jump on back to my project. We can do that. npm install supabase /supabase.js. And we can do that. It's installed in my project. And now I can go and open up my dev server again. So I can do my run dev that I have. And our project is up and running. And I had this running in two different windows, but we might as well just have it in a separate tab because that will make life a little bit easier. And let's jump back to, not there, but we want to jump back to here. So we've initialized it, right? We haven't initialized. We have it in our project, whether it's through your npm install or through a script. And then if we come down, you can see we need to initialize it. And this just means we get it up and running. We want to connect our project to it. And it's a nice, very simple way where we're going to be using this import create client, and then we're going to be setting things up here. So let's just copy this actually to make our life a little bit easier. For my project, what I'm going to be doing, let's close that for now. And I'm going to be coming over into my source. I already have a lib folder where I'm doing my colors, which is the contrast ratio stuff that I'm doing. So generally this is where the type of place I would save this file. So I'm going to create a new one called supabase.js. I'm going to paste that example they had in here, and we can zoom back out so we can actually read what I have. And this is the important part, create client from supabase at supabase, which is what we just installed. And then this part that they have in their docs, what I actually want to do is replace this with my supabase URL, and I want to replace this one with that anon key that we got. So if you remember, we saved those off in my env file, so I can go and get those from my env file now. And to do that, we're just coming in with something like this. So my supabase URL and my anon key and import meta.env. This is, I believe, a Vite way of doing it, and Astro runs on Vite. So it's import meta.env, and then I get the name of those from here. And then here, I would just say my supabase URL is what I want to put right here. And my supabase anon key is what I want to put right here. The thing is, I have this in its own file, right? This is my supabase file that's sitting off in other places in my project. It's not being directly used here. So I'm just going to add an export here, meaning I can then import it into other files and I can use it in those other files. Now we want to get set up with Auth so people can log in. We do have tables to build. We're going to look at the easy way to build tables. But the first thing I'm going to do is let's go back to my dashboard. So if I come over here to project settings, and from project settings, I'm going to come down to configure for authentication. And you can see by default, allow new users to sign up is on, which makes sense. We want people to be able to sign up right now, but if you had to close things, you're able to. And the confirm email is on, meaning people will have to confirm their emails. And we're going to be doing everything with magic links because it's just incredibly easy to do that. And you can see by default, email is on here. Now, there's a very important thing. If we go to emails here, that this is one of the other things. This isn't because it's on a free plan. This is just they don't want you abusing their email servers and probably getting in trouble with spam issues. So the rate limit that they have if you don't have a custom SMTP setup is 2 emails per hour. So it's really meant for the setting up, like making sure things are okay. But as soon as you could set up a custom SMTP, the better. I actually managed to get mine set up with a Google Workplace account, which took a little bit of work, and I don't remember how I did it for the other thing that I'm doing. But yeah, but yeah, this is where you'd come in, set up your custom SMTP so the emails are coming from you and you don't run into the rate limiting issues. You just go to here and you can set it up. And then down here is all the different templates that you can use along the way. And I'm clicking too fast for them, but you can come through here and just change the templates that you do have. Let's get rid of those toasts. You can change the templates if you want to, but the default ones for our purposes today are completely fine. But how do we actually get them to send this magic link and then for it to go to the user and log that user in? And this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So let's move this on over to the side here and we get back into JavaScript land. So the first thing is I'm going to stay in this lib folder that I'm in right here, and I'm going to make another new one called auth.js that I'm going to be using for all my auth. Again, this might be slightly different depending on the structure of your project and everything else, but the overall scope of what I'm doing will be very, very similar. So let's zoom back out and get started in here, where the first thing we were going to do is we want to use supabase. So we just import supabase from, and the from here is just .supabase, right? Because we're in the same folder. So that's perfect. We have supabase now. We just need to use it. And the very first thing I'm going to do, once again, I'm going to be exporting this because I'm going to use it within my, let's open up my file. It's my auth modal, where this is, let's go look here. When I click sign in, like this is my modal. So I need to get this email and do everything. So here's the form where I'm going to be using it. So this is the file where I need to use the auth, and I'm setting it up here. So because I'm setting it up here and using it somewhere else, we're going to start once again with an export. And in this case, it's also going to be an async function. So async function, and I'm just going to call it send magic link because that's all this is doing. nice and simple. Now in here, I'm just going to write email because we're going to go from here. The person's going to enter their email. We're going to get the value of this. We're going to pass that value into here, and then we're going to do the email sendy stuff here. So in here, I'm going to do something that might look a little bit weird if you haven't done this type of thing before, but I'll explain how I know how to write this as well. I'm going to write const error is equal to, and it's going to be await supabase.auth. Let's close the sidebar. We don't need it, and we want to see more. So auth, and we're going to do a sign in with OTP. in here, we can just say email and we'd be good. That's all we actually need to put here is the email, and we would be completely fine. And so we're just basically saying we're going to sign in with the OPT, sending the email, which is coming from here, which is coming from the form. Makes sense, right? There's one more thing that we can do here that's a little bit of a fail-safe. It's really not necessary, but I'm going to go back over to my supabase here, and I'm going to look at one more thing, which is my URL configuration. Let's make this a bit bigger, just so we're at the desktop sizes. And so again, this is under authentication, and I'm going to go to URL configuration. And this is where the site URL is. In the future, you're going to want to set this up as your actual site URL and not a local host. But if you go to the docs here, the docs are fabulous about how to set a lot of this up. So if you come down here, you can see some recommended things. But even if you're using Netlify previews, they show you how you can set it up to work for your main site plus the preview deploys and your local host. So wherever you're testing things out, everything is always working. For now, this would make sense for me to change it to a 4321 because this is the local host that Astro is using by default. If you have a different local host, I would suggest you do that and you save the change. I'm not going to save my change. I'm going to leave this as 3000 just to show you the one extra thing that we can do as a little bit of a fail-safe. You want to change it in supabase. So, but one thing we can also do here is an option. Options, I should say, because there's more than one option that you can have. And in my options, I can do an email redirects to, and we can say window location origin. And that should actually help if I run into an issue where I forgot to change this local host. And anyway, we'll test that out and see if it works for us without having updated here when we get to that step. Now, before I continue with this, because there's one more thing that we are going to do in here, but just in case you're wondering where I'm getting all of this from, once again, if we go to the API docs down here and we go to the authentication section, you're going to see a lot of what I'm doing down here. Or sorry, this is user management, not authentication. So in this case, it's log in with magic link via email, and you can see it's exactly, they're using a let instead of a const. So data error, that's the error that's coming here, await, and then we have all of that, and then the email, and they're hard coding the email in. Obviously, we don't want to hard code it in, so that's why I'm just passing the email in like that. So we have that in place, but there's one more thing I want to do, because say we do sign in and there's a problem that happens, it's good to let the user know that there was an error along the way. So here we can say that if error, return error, and if there isn't one, we can say return error null. And so this is just making sure something's happening. So we're saying if there is an error, tell us what the error is. If there is no error, so if there's an error, we're ending here. If it doesn't go into there, we're coming here. We're just saying there is no error, but we're returning, we're done. And you'll see, we'll tie this back in once we actually start using this. So I'm going to save this file right now, and let's see how we can actually get this to send us the magic link. We'll have a few more steps to do after this in this auth file. There's a few other things we want to do, but let's start with that. And so we can jump on over to here, and then let's jump on over to my auth modal, which is right here. And I'm doing a little bit, that's my styling. And I have got basically all my form elements that are right here. So, or not form elements, all the modally stuff is in here. And we'll be talking a bit more about some fun things I'm doing in here from a styling point of view in a second too. Or not styling, but structural point of view, I should say. But we have a simple form, nothing too fancy. And then I have my show modal and my modal close. So if I can, that's what's letting me open and close it. And the reason that's working is because I am using, just really fast, I am using a dialog here. If you want to know more about dialog and the show modal and all of those things, I do have a video. There should be a link to it somewhere and a link in the description that goes into more information about those. The main thing I want to do at this stage, though, is I actually want to be able to log in. So on the form itself, we want to do something, right? So I'm going to say form. Again, I don't want linting errors, so I do have to say form ? Just because if not, Astro gets mad at me. We're going to add an add event listener. And I think there's a way of disabling TypeScript checking within script tags in Astro, but I'm not 100% sure. But we're going to add our event listener here, and we're going to listen for, not a click, Kevin, we're going to listen for a submit. I'm so used to writing click for everything I do. Now after they submit, we're going to do something. So we can do an arrow function. And now we actually have to do something. And the first thing we're going to do is an e.prevent default, right? Because we don't want to actually submit anything to start with. And I forgot to put my E here. So this is checking the event, and then we're just saying the submit event, stop it. Don't actually submit the form because we need to do some stuff with that information that's in there. Now we need to get the email address that's going to be in here. So I'm going to say const email is going to be equal to my email input.value.trim. And the reason I'm saying .value.trim is, say I came in here and I said space email at email.com and I add another space. The trim takes any white space off of that first and last character, so it doesn't actually cause any problems because someone might not notice they put an extra space in somewhere along the way. So that solves that problem right there. So that's the only reason I'm doing that. And again, this email input is just my email input. That's my get element by ID email input. So we're just getting the value of whatever somebody puts inside of there. And I do apologize. I think I have an extra event listener somewhere that's closing things. 1 second. Yeah, I don't want this here. Let's get rid of that. I was doing something to add clicking outside, but we have enough. And I think I overdid it. So that's going to be a little bit better. Okay, sorry about that. So here, we're getting our email address. Then once we have our email address, we need to do something with it. But what if somebody hits submit and they haven't done it? I did put a required on here. So let's just go take a look really fast. On here we have the required. So that does mean if somebody hits submit, it shouldn't do it anyway. The browser is going to stop them from submitting it. But just to be safe, if you want to make sure that nothing in here is actually doing anything, we can put a if email. So if they haven't, there is no value that's actually in there, then we can just return right away. So we're not going to process anything. We're not going to do anything if there's no email address, which means now we can continue if there is an email address. And so the very first stage of this is let's let them know we're actually submitting to supabase. We're dealing with something somewhere else. When you're doing localhost and a lot of front-end stuff, it's all instant, right? But we're actually going and sending something over to supabase and waiting for them to acknowledge they got it and send us a message back saying, hey, we got this, it's worked, or hey, we got something and something went wrong. There's a communication going on. And we need to wait for that communication to happen. And if you've ever submitted something and had to wait like 4 seconds with no input and not knowing if it's actually doing anything, you know how frustrating that is, right? So you want to let the user know that what they've done is actually done something, and we're just waiting a second or two for it to happen. So the very first thing we can say is, okay, we've got the email address. So what we'll do is we'll say our const submit btn is going to be equal to form dot query selector, and it's going to be, in this case, we can even say something. I don't remember if I gave it a class, but I know I have a button type is equal to submit on there, submit. So I can use that as my selector, which I think is a nice way to do things instead of always relying on classes for things, because this should be the only button that's submitting. So that is clearly my submit button. And then what we'll do is we'll say that the submit btn dot disabled is going to be equal to true. And I think here I'm going to have to say if there is a submit button. And it's also mad at me because this is as HTML button element. Oh, we don't need the question mark. There we go. It just wanted me to say that it was a button element. So sign in. Now we've got this and we're actually going to disable it. So let's, I don't know if I have a class on there. Do we have it disabled? Let's go. Oh, I do have disabled. Okay. Wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure if I was disabling my button. So now if I come in here and I don't do anything, or I put something invalid, it won't work. But let's come in and test this. We're going to say, let's just say email at email.com. And hit that, and you can see the color of it has changed, and I lost my cursor. It wasn't a big color shift. I apologize. I should have done something a bit more drastic. So let's just go show in the dev tools. And this is to like prevent someone from spamming it and trying to submit over and over again. So they've submitted. My button is, there's the form. Let's go inside the form. My button is disabled right there. Perfect. So we've disabled it, and just to make it really clear, we can also say submit btn text content is going to be equal to, and we just put like sending or something like that. So let's try that again. Sign in, email at email.com, and it switches over to sending. Awesome. It's always nice when these things work. So we tell them it's sending. Now we actually have to send it. So this is where we need to use what we created over here, which is this send magic link. So let's come back over to here, and at the top of my script, I'm going to import that. So we're going to say import, and that was, I already forgot the name of it. I'm terrible at remembering. Send magic link, nice and easy. So we're going to import our send magic link from, and that would be my lib and my auth. So that brings that function we created into here. Now I come down over to here and we can actually use it. And I'm going to say const error, because we're going to want to be able to get if there is an error or the message, we're going to be able to use it here. So we're going to say const error, or if there is an error, I should say, and we're going to say await send magic link, and we want the email here. So email is getting the email here, which is getting it from the value. We pass that email into here, and then that email gets put into here, which gets put into this, and it sends them an email, or at least that's the plan. Here it's telling me I want to do an await here because we need to, and I just realized I didn't make this entire thing in a async function. And if you see here, VS Code's telling me we have to be in an async function. So just when I did this, we can just come up and say async right there. And now my await will work. Now I'm not going to do this right away just because I don't want to burn through my emails that I have because I haven't set up the custom SMTP yet. We haven't done that yet, so I don't want to spam just because I'm worried that I'll burn through that and I'll have to wait a little while. So, but what we'll do next is once it's submitted, the idea is, and maybe we could test the errors now, but well, to test the errors, we need to get the error back, right? But before we worry about that, actually, we're disabling, we're sending. Then we have this and we're waiting for the response to come back from supabase. Once that's back and we have a response from them, whether it's an error or not an error, right? That things have worked, then we can tell the user, first of all, but second of all, we can bring our button back to working again. Or, I mean, we could, I guess, hide the button, but I'm just going to bring it back. So I'm going to say submit button dot disabled is going to be equal to false. And I'm going to say submit button dot text content is going to be equal to send me my magic link, which I think is what the default text was. Now, the last thing I want to do is talk about the error, the success and error messages that we could potentially have. So what I've done in here, if let's go back, look at my form. I have this div right here with my class of message, but more importantly, it's this area live of polite. And I have this, it's just an empty div that's sitting here waiting for content to go inside of it, whether it's an error message or a success message or whatever it is. And the reason it has this area live is polite is for screen readers to let them know the content is updated in there, and then it will let them know about the message. And the polite that's here is just to say that it's not going to interrupt them if they're in the middle of something. So say they submit and then they're interacting with the page somehow else. It won't interrupt what they're currently doing, but once they stop, it's going to say, hey, wait, there was an error or it was successfully submitted. I do believe the option there, you could also do assertive, which would just overwrite and tell them right away. But I wouldn't say it's like a super, I don't know, maybe assertive would work there, but I'm going to leave it like this. The reason I showed you that though is I want to enter text into there. Let's come right here. I'm going to say if error that we want to do something, and just so we don't get yelled at by TypeScript linting, we're going to say if message div, and I already have that right here. My message div is getting that form message. That's exactly what we just looked at. So if we have a message div, then in there we're going to say message div, and I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do a set attribute. And the set attribute will be my data state. It should be in quotation marks, data state, and it's going to be an error. And then we can say message div inner text content is going to be equal to error.message. And then we can say not there, down here, else if message div message, let's just copy this to go a little bit faster. So instead of an error here, this would be success. And here, instead of an error message, because we don't have an error message, we could come with please check your email for your magic link. And last but not least, I think it would make sense to do a form.reset just so it's not there anymore. The alternative here is, I guess you could just hide the form and replace it with your message because you might not want them submitting it again, but I think this is fine. And the reason I'm using the data state here, I haven't actually styled these up yet, but you can use these data states here instead of classes to style things. And it just makes it easier to like switch between the two. You're not removing one class to put another class on. You just switch the error state, style the error states, and it works quite well. So let's come and test this out. I'm going to do a sign in. And here we can enter in an email address. So I'm going to use my public email address right there. And we're going to say, send me my magic link. It's currently sending. And then look at that. It worked. Please check your email for your magic link. Now, I don't know if it worked yet, but let's come and look. First of all, at supabase and see what happened over here, where if I come to my, I believe it's under authentication. I always say authentication for some reason. And in users, there is a user now. And that user, there he is. It worked. But we didn't create the account yet, so waiting for verification is still coming. But look at that. We have a user coming in. And now I'm going to open up my email off screen because I want to dox anyone who's been emailing me. And if I come further down and I find it, I have sitting right here a confirm your sign up. And if we come in here, we can see confirm your sign up right there. There is another one from them earlier because I was testing it to make sure that, doing a pre-recording to make sure things worked. But you can see here it says confirm your email. Now, the other interesting thing, I'm going to copy this link address because I have that in a different window. I'm going to paste this in here. And you'll even see right now, it might be hard, I'll zoom in on it, but it says that we're redirecting to the 4321. We're actually going to the local host because of that option that we'd set up when we did our auth with the window.location origin, which helped fix that problem where I didn't remember to set my URL up correctly. Go and make sure you set your URL correctly. But that's there. So let's go and see what happens. Well, we're logged in now, but it doesn't really do much. But technically it's worked. If we go back to supabase now, actually, let's refresh. I don't even know if we have to refresh. Sometimes it says waiting. So let's just refresh here and see if that worked. It might not have actually. Oh, it did. There we go. Last sign in. It's worked. Everything is fine. The problem is we have nothing to detect what, okay, we got the users logged in, but logged into what? What happens once they're logged in? So in the auth here, we don't need to be in supabase for this. But what we're going to do is look at another function that we're going to need in our auth here for when a user is logged in to make a few different changes. I'm going to paste this in. We'll walk our way through it a little bit just to go a bit faster than what we did up above, because these two here are really simple. And this next one will take a bit of explaining. But we have a sign out and a get user. Very simple. Somebody clicks a sign out button, we can use this function sign out and it signs them out. Not very difficult. The get user here is to get the user information. So we can check if we get user information, it comes back null. It means the user's not logged in. Or we can get the information and it gives us information about the user, mostly the email address. It's the only thing we're getting from them. And we could get their ID and other stuff as well. And we'll probably have to use their ID actually at one point along the way. But we do that. Then this is where things are a little bit weird because we're using a callback function and we're going to be doing a on state auth change. So we're looking for when authentication changes. Is a user logging in or logging out? And we want to make changes like my sign in button is going to change, or when we're here, this UI will change right here into something else. And this is going to allow us to do it. There's a few important things here. So we're doing this callback and I'll explain a bit more about how this works in a second. But basically we're going to get the user data and then we're going to do whatever, we're going to pass a function into here and then we're going to pass the user data into the function that we're passing into there, essentially. So we're getting the user data. That's the important thing. We're getting the current user. And then over here, we're listening for changes to the user. So if the user's switching from being logged in to logged out or logged out to logged in, we're going to be updating things at the same time. So this is reacting to those changes. This is using a subscription. So you can see data subscription and returning subscription. On what I'm building here, this is safe to do. It's only loading once with page load and there's no issues. If you're using something like you're building an SPA with React, or even if you're using Astro with view transitions, in these different situations, you could run into memory leaks really easily. So you want to make sure that you're unsubscribing. I don't need to bother with it in this time because it's once on the page. There's nothing I'm clicking on here that's adding more and more of them. The problem if you had an SPA is every time you're loading more content in, it could be coming in with another one of these listeners, and then you just have them all stacked there, all listening to the same thing, and it can cause a problem. So if you're using some things like that, then make sure you look into how you can unsubscribe. If you already are using those, you probably know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't been using them, then you don't need to worry about it for now anyway. So on a simple thing like this, we're completely fine. So let's jump on back to this auth modal, and we're going to do something in here. So let's go up, and something I didn't look at before. I had this form that's right here. That's what we've been looking at this entire time, the form right there. But down over here, I had this other div that has a class of hidden on it. And I could use a hidden attribute, but whatever, I used the class of hidden to throw a display none on this. And the idea is I want to show this if the user is logged out, and I want to show this if the user is logged in. I'm currently using Astro. I could be doing some of this up in my code fence at the top. If you're using React, same thing. You don't have to be doing this here. You could be doing a conditional, show this or show this, right? One or the other. There's no problem with that at all. Though if the user's, that's good for when the page loads, but when the user logs off, you still need to be able to make an update. So depending on how your pages are being built and everything, just if you're using server-side rendering or static generation, all these different things, I'm just going to do this client-side. It does mean there's the potential for a flash of content as things are running. I don't think we'll run into an issue with the modal, though, when we do this. So let's come down back to here, and we're actually going to use this now. So right here, or I said I was about to start writing it on auth state change and start using it, but I did make a mistake. I haven't imported it yet. So here we are going to want the on auth state change, and we're also going to have the logout button that's going to be in there. So I'm also going to do a sign out as well, because those are the sign out that we had. So I'm going to be bringing both of those into this modal right here. And so let's click the sign in again. And now let's come back down. Main reason I keep opening that is it's a little less bright. I should make a dark mode for this site. But anyway, what we're going to do is on auth state change. And in here, we're going to have our user. And what we want to do is something. So we can pass a function right here. And we're going to say if user, because of course we might not have a user. And then I want to get my form container to turn it off and turn the other one on. So I'm going to say auth form container and class list. And we can say add hidden. And actually, if I save this, I think it's going to work because we were already signed in. Yeah. We signed in before, right? We followed the link. It brought us in. It knows we're signed in right now. So it worked. There was no indication that we were signed in, but we were. So that's great. Now, the other thing that we want to do is the other thing, my user info container. We want to get the class list, and we want to remove the hidden from that one. So now, oh, that didn't work. User info container. You got to spell things right, though. And there we go. Account. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. The other thing we need to do, though, is I had that empty div that's in there. So let's go take a look at that. We have this, my P user email, where I actually want to put the user's email address there just so they have some information and they know that they're there. So perfect. We can come here. So if user, we're still in there where we have a user, and we can say if user email display. That was the name, what I called it. So, all these, the auth form container user, these are all my consts that I have up above. And then we can just set the text content. Text content is going to be equal to user.email, because we can grab that. So if I sign in now, there's my email address. Fabulous. Don't spam me, please. That is my public facing one though. So, but yeah, we're getting that information, because if we come and take a look at our table, I could get my UID if I wanted to. I could get display name, but we don't have one. I can get my email address. We don't have any of these, but we could get that information. We could even get the created at, last sign-in date. All of this information is available to us because that's all saved in this user table that Supabase has created for us. So I think that's actually pretty cool. The other thing I'm going to do is just grab both of these. And so this is our if statement going here, and then we can just say else, and we can invert them. So this would be remove, and this would be add. So let's just open up an incognito window. And in the incognito window, if I take a look, we're going to send you the magic link. I'm not signed in over here. And if I come on this version over here, again, we can refresh the page, sign in. I'm already signed in and it's working. So yeah, awesome. The next thing, or actually an interesting thing, is I went to an incognito window because even if I went to another tab, it's aware that I'm signed in. So, and if you signed out in one tab, it would sign you out in the other tabs, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, pretty neat. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, we do also want to make sure that we can sign out. I'm not going to sign out for now just because I don't want to overuse, or maybe, yeah, I think we could test it out. So we're going to do our sign out btn and add event listener. This one's nice and easy. When we click it, we can do async and do our function. And in this case, we just do an await of our sign out. And we could just leave it like that. I also could close my modal. Close modal probably makes sense at the same time. Close auth modal, I think is what I called it. There we go. So if I click sign in, I'm signed in. I can click sign out. It signs me out. If I refresh or whatever, it doesn't matter. We can see now we need to sign back in. So I'm going to sign back in and I'll see you in 1 second. Luckily, I did not have to wait very long for that email to come in. So now if I go and I click the sign in button, we can see I am signed in. Next, the problem is this always says sign in even if I'm signed in, which we don't want. So we need to update that button that's up there as well. So for that one, I just have that over floating around in my index right now. I didn't do anything too fancy with that one. But we could then, we already have it here, my auth toggle that's set up, which is just toggling my modal being opened or closed right now. And what we could do is, let's just come down here. We're going to use the same thing. So I'm going to have to import my on-auth state change from, in this case, we want to go back, go to my lib, and then it's in my auth. So we can grab that. And then down here, we can say on-auth state change. Once again, user. And I don't think I explained the callback properly. So I'll explain that once I get this one set up. So we're going to say if auth toggle, which of course we have, but auth toggle text content. In this case, we'll just keep it easy because it's so short. We're just going to say user, yes or no. And then we can say account, or we have sign in. I wasn't sure if we should do sign in or sign up, but there we go. Now it says account because I'm signed in. So I get my account information, I can sign out. And if we, again, let's open that in an incognito tab, I sign in. We're not signed in this browser. So then we would have to actually log in. I think that's pretty neat, right? I'm pretty happy with that. So here, what's happening with that callback is this entire function is getting passed into that callback. So we're taking this, going all the way back. This is just a linting error, by the way, just because we have the user implicitly has any type, because I'm not using, I haven't set a specific type on there. It's not going to cause any problems. But yeah, we're basically taking this entire thing, sending it back into here, and not that one, sorry, into this one, and then we're getting the user, and then the data, we're doing that function here with this data user that's here. And then the exact same thing, if we have our state change, it's doing it as well here. It's doing session, user, and it's doing what we need it to do. So get user data, it's either null or it's not. So if we actually have the data, so we're saying if we have the user, we checked, we got the user, we're sending that user information back into here. We have user, we show account, we don't have user, we sign out. Same thing that we did over here. We have the user, then we're showing this, we don't have it, we're doing this over here. And then it's listening for changes. So when I sign out, then it actually signs me out and it updates those UI elements at the same time. So that was fun, but now we get to the more fun part of having to do the real backend stuff. That was like front of the backend, right? We're interfacing with something. So we're having an interface with a backend, but what about actually creating a backend? And this is where things get scary, especially with like SQL and other things. And I will say that if you're somebody who's really not comfortable with this, one of the things they mentioned is they've been improving their MCP, which is the model content protocol. I apologize. But it's basically you can connect if you're using any AI tools or LLMs like Claude, Copilot, Cursor, and all of them. I think it's like a one click to connect to Cursor even. So they can see your databases, so we can give you information on them. It can help you create databases and do all of those things. It can help you interface with them as well. So it's definitely something that could be worth checking out if you're into using those tools. I know some people love them and other people don't. So if you're not, well, you're walking through this with me then. And we're going to see how easy this is. So I'm going to move this on over a bit so we can get the full thing here. I don't want to be in my authentication anymore though. And it was weird, I lost my side menu, but we got it back by refreshing the page. And the main thing I want to do is just head on over to this table editor that's right here. So I'm going to click on that, and you could go to your SQL editor or SQL editor. If you're comfortable with this, by all means, go for it. You know more than I do at this point. But if you're like me, this table editor is fantastic, where we're going to be creating tables. So I want to create tables for my themes, and we're going to start with that. So we're going to click create a table, and we can call this themes. And then description optional, so I'm not going to bother. Next up, we have enable row level security. This is on by default, and you should definitely leave it on by default. If you remember, I mentioned if we go look at those env keys that we had, or the env file with these two things in it, I said that these are publicly available. The reason it's not an issue for them to be publicly available is because of this row level security that we can set up with supabase. What this does is it basically says you can control how a user can interact with your data. So if a user's not logged in, you can just give them 0 access. They won't even see any of the themes. All right. Then if a user, or you could say all the data is read only, and a user is able to insert this type of data or upsert other things, which means modify existing things or delete things. And you can choose which users based on roles that you set up or other things like that. It's all actually pretty easy to understand. Sometimes it can get complex setting them up. But yeah, keep your row level security on. If you don't, I think they also email you constantly to like, hey, you should turn it on. But yeah, you want to leave this on. There's no reason not to. And it's quite easy to set policies that will do what you want it to. So we're going to leave that on. I don't need enable real time, but if you do need to broadcast changes to authorized subscribers, you could. For our project here, it doesn't really make sense. And now we get to the fun part of building the table. And this is just a table of different things. So it's my theme. So I have to think, if I look at my themes, well, I have 4 colors. So that's something I need. I am going to be hearting them. So we're going to be clicking and it's going to be adding hearts. So I probably want something that's going to keep track of how many hearts something has. I could keep track of the user who's created it if I wanted to. Don't have to, but it's an idea that we could have. So you want to plan things out a little bit about what you're going to need. You can always add rows later on. So it's not an issue if you forgot something, but it can, I would try to plan things out as much as possible from the beginning when you're starting to create tables. But again, if you need to make modifications, it's possible. Adding stuff isn't too bad. It's when you start removing things that are in there that maybe you end up running yourself into a little bit of trouble along the way at times. So let's come in here. And I was saying rows before. We have, this is creating columns and not rows. Rows would be creating like the filled out thing. Column is each one of the columns that has information stored in it. For the ID here, and actually this is like the nice thing is if you don't know this stuff, you have a drop down that you get to choose from, but then you see int 2, int 4, int 8, you don't know which one to pick. So I wouldn't stress too much about it. It's like a larger number. I think I forget, one of these is like, I think int 2 is like 32,000, like from negative 32 to positive 32 something. And then like each one gets a lot bigger and bigger. So it just means it does use more memory and could slow things down. You can also do UUIDs, which it's just a unique ID, and every one of them is going to be unique. We could do either one. Like I could probably do an int 2 and not worry about it on here, but we're going to make sure that no IDs get mixed up just in case. We'll do a unique identifier. It's probably a little bit heavier in memory, but I'm not going to stress too much about it. And the default value, it's just generating a random number for us. Perfect. It's also the primary key. You have to have a primary key. So makes sense the ID is the primary one. Created at, it's a timestamp of when it's created. That's perfect as well. Next up, we might as well keep track of who has created it. Just in case we want to enable certain features later, maybe you filter by only the ones you've created would be an option. Having this in here from the very beginning would be a good idea. Just because if not, users were creating them, you're never tracking it, you add the functionality later, you can't retroactively know who created it. You can only do it for the new themes being created in the future. So for this one, it's a little bit different though, because we're going to choose the UUID again. We want like a unique identifier, but our user IDs, we want to link it to the existing users we already have. So over here, there's this suggested expressions little toggle. And if I click on that, and I'm worried my head's going to start covering some of these, so let's move myself out of the way. And you can see that I can choose the random one like we had before, but I can also use auth UID, and that returns the user ID when rows are added or updated through the API. That means it's grabbing the user, that it already knows who the user is, it knows the user's ID, so it's going to link that ID to this theme just like that, nothing else to do. The next thing I need is my 4 colors. So we have my base color. We'll add the columns, then we'll fill these out. Base color, primary color, then it's the primary, I think it was secondary color, and then an accent color. For these, they're always going to be hex codes. That's just how I'm doing it. You could do better color schemes with other things than hex, but I think just having these as text is completely fine. We could set things up a little bit differently if we wanted to. I think there's ways of actually making sure that it's exactly 8 characters, so there's no weird stuff getting injected, but we're not going to like break anything with my color picker having the wrong colors in it. And I don't have a default value that we're going to have for any of these, so I am going to leave those as null. We're not going to be really allowing submissions for things that don't have it. We could actually prevent, if I go to the settings here, is nullable is actually an option for all of these. We don't really want anything. I don't think it's going to cause any issues, so I'm going to leave it there. Maybe somebody who knows more about backend can flag something and I'll pin your comment. But there won't really be a way from the front end to submit something that doesn't have 4. But maybe let's do that. We're going to turn off is nullable on these ones. We'll do it on all of them actually. So is nullable just means it can be null, but it doesn't make sense for any of these to be something that could be nullable. So we're just going to make it, if somebody tries submitting, it's going to throw an error because I don't know how they would manage to do it, but they would throw an error on something because there's only 3 colors coming in somehow. I don't know how you would manage it. You would go in I honestly don't know. But the last thing I am going to add now, we could add this later on, but I'm going to add from the beginning because I'm planning this, is a hearts count as well. And for this one, I'm going to choose the int 4. Int 2 would probably be big enough. But we're gonna give it the option of being able to be, maybe one of them gets super popular, and so now we're really not worried about it. We should check that out. Int 4 versus let's try the int 2. Just double check. Int 4 is between 2 billion one way or the other, and the int 2 is 32,000. Again, 32,000 would probably be more than enough, but now we know none of them are going to get 4 billion, so we'll be safe with that right there. And with all of that in place, yeah, we're good. I'm going to hit save. The next thing we do need to do is look at the row level security, because there is a problem in that right now we can't actually do anything on our site to get the stuff that we have. And so on here, we have the table editor. We have the add RLS policy here, and we're going to click that and we can disable, but I want to create a policy. And I want people to be, we want 2 of them actually. We want everybody to be able to see them, or we'll never be able to bring them in. So select just means, it even says enable read access for all users. This makes sense. These are templates that we can use. So I'm just going to click that. Read access for everybody for my themes makes a lot of sense. So I click that, it says enable read access for all users on public.themes, permissive select public using true. Yeah, let's hit save policy. There we go. We can now read the themes. There's none in there, but they're available. And we want to allow only logged in users to be able to create themes next. So let's create a new one. So once again, create policy. Then enable insertion for authenticated users only. Hey, look at that. We have everything that we need. So enable insert for authenticated users. That means somebody who's logged in. Public themes, permissive, insert to authenticated with check. So, okay, let's hit save policy there. And now we should be able to both access all the themes and also insert new themes only if we're logged in. So let's go and actually get that set up now, because we need to be able to do those things. So let's jump back on over to here, and we're going to open up VS Code as well. This is my logged in one that I had. And I'm going to come in and we're going to create a new lib file again. We're going to say a new file of create theme.js. And we can zoom back out. So for this one, we need to make sure that the person is logged in. So we're going to have our import supabase, and right, it won't work without supabase. So we need to, not only do they need to be logged in, but we need supabase to be there. So we're going to import supabase. And then we want to create something that we're going to be using somewhere else. So once again, I'm going to use an export, and it's going to be an async function. And we'll call create theme. And then we can put theme data right here. So we're going to create a theme, and we're going to pass some data into there to create a theme. And the first thing we're going to have to do is get the user, because we're going to be, it's not going to work if not. So let's say const, and then here I'm going to put user. And then here we can do our await of supabase.auth.get user. So if we don't have a user, so if user, we don't have one, then we can return something. We'll say data is null. We're not actually returning anything, but we can also throw an error, right? So we can say new error. So like it's the simple way to do it. You must be logged in to save a theme, something like that. Perfect. And we probably could just make it so you can't, I put a semicolon instead of a comma there. Perfect. Okay. But now obviously if we then want to actually create a theme. So we're going to say const, and this is the pattern you're always going to see when using supabase. You have like data error, or you're going to have, you might have like data theme, or like other, you're naming here, like the data's, you're telling it what to call it. But it's always going to look something like that, where we have the const data error, and then you're going to have an equals await supabase. And then what you do with that changes. So here we're saying we're getting the supabase auth get user. In this case, we're going to have a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to put them all on more lines to make it easy. We're going to say from and themes. So that just means this is the name of our table in supabase. So let's zoom back out just so I have my table editor, and it's the name, literally the name you have here is the name that you'll use right here. And we're inserting a lot of things. So in here, we can put in some curly braces, and on each line, we can say our user ID is the user.id. We already have that coming because we have our user right here. We're grabbing our user. So right there is our user. We're making sure we're using their ID for the user ID. Then the base color. So we come and look, our base color. So we just come here and write base color. So whatever we want in that column of the table, then we go, well, like, how are we getting that? So remember, we're going to be grabbing the colors from here. So if I'm getting my base color from here, that's getting part of this theme data that we're going to pass into this. So I can say here, the theme data dot base color. And then I can just replicate that for the 4 colors. So base, then we have our accent. Then we have the primary. And then this last one here is going to be the secondary. Then after that, we're going to select. And the select here is basically just returning that theme that we have here. And just to be safe and make sure nothing weird happens, like a double submission or something like that, we can do single to just say that only expect 1. So if like 6 themes come in, that shouldn't happen. We should only be getting 1 in each submission. And then we can come down here and we can just say that we're going to return data, or if we have an error, we can return the error. And it is possible the error is null. And I've run into issues with this, so I am going to throw that in there, that we're returning data error or null. And we'll see how this works. So with that set up, we now need a way to save our themes. So let's come back on over. Actually, in this case, it's my sidebar. I do have linting errors in here. I do apologize for that. You can see here's where I have my swatches set up. Actually, that's these guys down here, the presets that I've created. We're going to be inserting things into there. Here's my copy. Let's just duplicate you, and we're going to call this one save button. And save button, it's not going to look very nice. The class on this one, I actually think I'll keep as copy button, so it keeps the styles for now. I'll fix that up another time. I wasn't planning this part until recently, so maybe we'll say save theme, and then the ID can be save theme on that one. So at least the functionality of the two of them can be a little bit different. So I'm going to come down into my scripts. I'm doing some other stuff here. That's all of there. Okay, so we're going to come here, and I'm just going to import my, it was the create theme, if I remember correctly. And that would be from my lib and create theme. There we go. And now we want to be able to use it. So actually, we're going to need to get that button too. So I'm going to do const of my save button, or we'll do btn because I've been using that, is going, whoops, I'm so used to CSS. Save button is going to be equal to document.query, or we can get element by ID, get element by ID, and the ID on that one is our save button, I think. How did we call it? Preset. ID is save theme, not save button. So we get that. And let's just push all this other stuff out of the way so it's not confusing us or doing anything. So we can say save btn and add event listener. So when we click on it, we want to do something. Whoops. Oh yeah, what am I doing? We do want to do something, but it will be in async. So when somebody clicks save, we need to get the values of each one of these. So I'm going to we'll do it for one of them, and then I'll go quickly for the other ones. So we're going to have our base color is going to be equal to our document get element by ID. And the ID for this one is my base color input, right? And then we can just duplicate that and change, that's my accent. This one is going to be my primary, and then this one here is going to be my secondary. And so we get all four of the colors. And then we can actually take a really similar approach to before, where we can actually, we can change the text in there, so we can disable it. It's getting mad at us because I didn't say that this is as HTML button element. There we go. So we're going to say that it's disabled. We're going to say that it's saving, and then we can save it using that create theme that we just did. So to be able to do that, const data error is going to be equal to, and like before I said, anytime, it's always going to look like this when we're doing the supabase stuff. So we're going to await, but this time we have our create theme that we just created. And in that create theme, if you remember, we had a few different things. So we had the base color, then we had which is going to be our base color right there. And then again, we can just duplicate these, base color, accent color, you get the idea. Primary color, whoops, I forgot to do that one too, primary. And then I can grab this one and change that one to my secondary. Then once it's saved, we can enable our button again. So that finishes, we re-enable our button, we change the text box to saying save theme. I think that makes sense. We could show error messages here and also like successful messages the same way we were doing with our login that we had. We had that space that we had. So we could take the similar approach there. It's probably something that's worth doing, but just for the sake of brevity right now, I don't think we're going to do that. So let's come here and just try and do something and see what happens. Let's go, I don't know, we're going to do something terrible. And so I'm going to hit save theme, and we can go and look at our table, and we should see it here. I don't see it there. So we did something wrong. Let's come back. I have two of them set up. That's okay. I don't know which one's which. Let's go and see why. I'm just making sure they're both on localhost. They are. So let's go and look to see if I save my theme, do we get an error? And we are getting an error. Now, this is okay, because if we come and look in, when we did our create theme, we are returning. If we get an error, we're going to return it. So for now, we could just do a console log, not that, we're going to say if error, then we can console log that error. So now let's try saving the theme, and then we can come back and we're getting an object here, and it says the null value column base color of relation themes violates the not null constraint. So it says that we're not sending in a base color. So the base color here, let's just come here then and do a console log of base color, comma, accent color, primary color, and secondary color to make sure we're actually getting the values and I didn't make a mistake in setting those up. So we'll save theme and take a look. Oh, we're getting null for all of them. That would be a good reason for this not to work. But this is why it's good to pass your errors through so you can check them. You could have the error come on the client side so they could see it. But the problem is things like not null constraints don't really help them. You could obviously build in something saying there's an error. So here I did something wrong. I probably didn't call them base color input. I thought that's what I had them as, but let's go and double check. That's those presets that I have right there. And surface base accent. Look at that. I just named them wrong. Okay, that was a silly mistake, but at least it's an easy one to fix. So this would be my surface base accent. I probably should rename them the other way, but I think a lot of other things would break if I did that. So now let's see what happens if I save my theme. Let's check my console first. Aha, it worked. So it worked there. We got our success, or actually just really fast. That was popping up because of this console log. We don't have an error, so this isn't popping up with anything. So I can remove that console log. And if I go look at my color themes, there we go. We got a color theme that came in. Amazing. Oh, but we have a problem. They're coming through in the wrong format. We're getting objects coming in. That's a problem. Oh, because we're not getting the value of them. So let's, right here, a little cheat. I'm just going to come here, delete that row because it's broken. And I want the base color is going to be, for each one of these, the value, right? So let's just dot value. That's giving me problems because it's not saying that it could be null. I'm not going to stress too much about it right now. Try one more time, save theme. It should pop in. We have it. And if we go take a look, we have the hex code for each one of them coming in. Perfection. That's awesome. So we now have an ability to save our theme. The problem is the theme doesn't show up in the presets when we do this. So I'm going to run through that really quickly. We're going to come in here. We're going to do some parts of this fast, but we're going to be doing more stuff with the supabase stuff. I'll slow down on a bit. So on here, we're just going to call this themes.js. Maybe set themes would be okay too. And we're going to do, once again, an export async function. And this time I'm going to call it get themes because we're going to be getting our themes from supabase. And what are we going to do? So we're going to get our const, once again, of our data and error. And that's going to be equal to await space supabase, as you might guess. And this is where we want to go and get that information. So we're going to say this is from, and I'm just going to put a space here to indent it a little bit, or a tab, I should say. And so we're going to do a from, and where are we getting it from? Once again, we go into our themes. And this is where it's a little bit different because we're going to select, and I'm just going to put a star because we want to select everything that's in there. And the order we can put in here as well. I'm going to do hearts count. So when we do have hearts, it will order them by that. We don't have any yet, but it's a way that we can do that. And here we can choose if it's ascending or descending. So I'm just going to put that it's going to be descending. So ascending, because I think by default it's the other way. Ascending is going to be equal to false. And just in case there's errors, we can come in, obviously, and check, because we've seen errors can happen. So if error, return. So data will be null, and we will have an error. And if we don't have an error, then we can return the data, and error is, in that case, going to be null. So yeah, we'll get our themes, return that data, and then do something with that data. And I think that the interesting thing here is just we're selecting everything, and we're able to order the way that information is coming in from supabase. Now, as far as using this, it's probably very unique for my own situation here. So we're going to go back to the sidebar where I actually have those set up, and it's just these hard-coded things that I have. I'm going to be replacing these with the content that's coming in. So the first thing, I didn't use the get user. I thought we were going to use get user. I'll leave that there just for now. But we're going to do an import of the get themes. And that was from our lib themes that we just created. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to come in with this just so we're not mucking around with it too long. But basically, we're getting my themes container, which is holding all those presets that are down there. Then I'm loading the themes. So I'm getting the data, any errors from, we're waiting for get themes. If there's an error, we can have our error. And then if not, I'm replacing the hard-coded presets I have, just using a template literal, looping through all of them to create all of the themes. And so if I save now, and it's not working, I expected them to be gone. Let's just check this before I go into my console. Oh, I'm using supabase here without having actually import hopefully you guys caught that while you were watching. Supabase, considering how many times I've done it, is equal to, or not equal to, from, and it's our supabase right there. And now it's working again. I had a mistake on my own end, but yeah, this was what was causing the error, or the issue was just we weren't bringing in supabase. But now we can see those are coming in. I've saved a few more. Let's save another theme and see, did that one work? There we go. But now we have a problem, which is I can save the same theme over and over again. If we come and look, it's just saving this again and again and again. And I'm just cutting over with a bit of an awkward cut, so I do apologize for that. But when I had originally created this, I was doing this check to prevent duplicates on the client side. And as I was editing this video, I realized that was a little bit of a mistake. This works, and so I'm going to explain what I'm doing here, but I'm going to show you the better way of doing it as well, just because, especially if you're more front end, you feel like just doing things on client side works. But what I was doing was checking for existing themes. So I was getting the existing theme here, waiting for supabase. So I'd get the themes, checking in the themes table, getting the ID, and I was checking if the base color was equal to the base color coming from my theme data. Remember, that was when we save, we're passing the colors for all of these as theme data. So I was checking the base color, accent color, primary color, and secondary color. And I was saying limit 1. So the reason I was limiting to 1 is, say there was 10,000 themes in the database. If it finds one match, you know there's already one existing. So then I wanted it to stop here. And then we would end it. So if there is an existing theme, then we would throw an error. The problem with doing it client side is maybe two people submit the exact same theme at the exact same time, or within a very short amount of time. That's very unlikely, but it is possible. And there's a better way of handling this than doing it client side. So I'm going to remove this, and we're going to jump back on over to supabase right here, where we're in my themes table, and we can't actually set this up with their visual editor, sadly. So for this one, I am going to go to the SQL editor that's right here, and we have a new thing here. And this can be a little bit scary because if you're not familiar with it, but it's easy enough in how it works. For certain things, you can find lots of information on writing these functions here. And so in here, the first thing we write is alter table, because we're going to be altering a table, and we have to write the name of the table we want. In this case, my name is themes, and it should autocomplete for us. So we can see there I have my themes table that I want to alter. And then I'm going to add constraint right there, and I name it whatever I want. So I'm going to call it unique color combo. And then on the next line, I'm going to come down, I'm going to write unique. And what I need to do is say, what do I want to make sure they're unique? And let's come back over to my table editor here. And actually, I'm going to click new table really fast, just to show you, like when we were setting up before, we did have that option in here of is unique. So you can check, you can ensure that a single value is unique when you're creating this. The problem is I don't want to ensure that I have a single value that's unique. I want to be checking if the combination of colors is unique. So if all these three are the same, but a base color is different, I want to accept that. That is a new theme. But if something exists where all four of these already exist in the database, then I don't want to do it. And I can't set up that like combo unique check through the visual editor here. So that's why I'm doing it. And all we're going to do is get the name. So we have the base color there, primary color. I have them all listed for us right here. So go back to my SQL editor, and I just write the name of each one of them. So I want to get my base color and my accent color. And now I have color with a U and not here, but that's okay. We can also set up my primary color and the last one, secondary color. And you can actually see the autocomplete was coming in because it's aware of my content here. And yeah, so alter table. So we're altering themes to add a constraint. We're giving that constraint a name. And then I'm saying they're unique. Really fast, if you do look up the types of functions you'd normally be writing in, if you do look up like Postgres functions or just this things you can do here in Supabase, usually the code that you'll see is going to be in all uppercase. But the autocomplete in here always goes to just lowercase, so that's why I'm sticking with all lowercase. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And then over here, there is this run button. And if I click the run button, and I've actually got an error. And I think, let's just look at the error here really fast. So if you don't have an error, it tells you don't have an error. So the problem is we already have, it can't create this because our table already has some duplicates. So let's go to my table editor and let's just leave two of them so I know these two are different, so I'm only going to leave those two for now. And we're just going to come through and I'm going to delete all 8 of those rows. Be very careful coming and just deleting stuff from your tables like this. But we're in dev world right now where I can get away with things like that. So now we don't have any unique ones. So let's come back to here and I'm going to try again. Click my run button. And this time success, no rows returned. So perfect. Now it means it should be working. So with that in place, let's jump back over to my theme generator and let's try saving a theme and seeing what happens. If I refresh, but we can see that there is no new theme coming in. And if we go and take a look in my console, we'll see here we have an error that's coming in. And in there, we can even see that the message duplicate key value violates the unique constraint, unique color combo. So supabase is preventing this for us. We don't have to do anything client side to be able to prevent that. Now, this would be kind of annoying from the user perspective, right? So it would be good to actually have an error pop up here. Instead of console logging an error, we can check what the error was. And actually, if we go back to here, we'll notice that the error is the number 23505. This is a unique constraint violation error. That's what this error means. So we know that if somebody submits a theme and this is the error code, that's obviously that's the problem. If there is an error and the code is equal to this, it's because their theme already exists. So instead of having it just throw a console log like that, we can come in here and say if that error.code, because let's just come back and look here. We can see it's the error and then the code here. So the error.code, if that code is equal to 23505, and so we would show our error here. And here I'm just going to do an else, so at least we can console log something if things do go wrong. And for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go find my save theme button that we have there. So that's right here. And underneath that, we can come in with a div with an area live is equal to polite, so we can announce to screen readers that we have an error message. You could have a class or whatever we need on there for our error state. And I will just give this an ID is going to be equal to theme error, just so we can select it nice and easily. And now if we go back to where we were before, the one thing, we have my save button. We're also going to want to get the, that's my save button. We're going to want theme error. And then here we'll get, this is our theme error is what I called it there. And in this case, it's not a button, so we don't need that on there. So we're getting our theme error. And then what we can do is, because we know this is the unique constraint that we needed, the theme already exists, we can come in with a message here. So theme error dot text content, and we update it to say, like, this theme already exists. Please create a new one. And now let's go and try that. If I hit save, and I'm not getting my error. Oh, I forgot to make this a string. I do apologize for that. So we're checking if that's a string there, not the number that we had. Now, there we go. This theme already exists. Please create a new one. Shows up. And then let's go and actually change the theme. So it's a unique theme. We'll come in with some different colors. Let's actually try and make something nice instead of this ugly one we have. I actually kind of like this, but we'll go in with a different color just so we can see it's working. That looks pretty good, actually. My primary color can be the dark, but we're going to sort of lighten it up. And then my secondary color, we're also going to steal from that same range and go a bit lighter. I don't know. Let's say we went with something like that. Now, if I save my theme, no issues come up. And if I refresh, and now my theme is showing up down here. Now, obviously, it is a bit of an issue that I need to refresh every time there is a new theme added. So that's one other improvement that we could make here. So even like this, we could probably fix this up a little bit. We could take this off. So if the error is this, we could have that. And then we could just, return from here. So we just get out of there. Here, we could do something like our theme error dot text content is just going to be equal to, we don't know what went wrong the rest of the time. So we could say there was some sort of miscommunication with the server. So something went wrong. Please try again, or whatever we want to do there. Try again, and then return. We could also just have the console log showing the error and return from there. It doesn't really matter. But if there's an error, basically, let's get out of here. If there's no error, so everything has gone correctly, well, we have our load themes that's already created, so then we can just reuse that again. So I can do an await of load themes. That should be load themes. And now let's create another new theme. Let's use this same one, but we'll go into like a lighter version of this. The accent color does not work because of my text. So we can come in with like a darker accent. Maybe we'll go with like an orange here. And no, orange, what goes well with blue? I think teal goes, whatever. I'm not going to waste too much time making a new theme. So now if I hit my new thing, you can actually see right away, as soon as that comes in, it has appeared down here. Let's change this to like, I keep going blues. Let's do something a bit different. Something more burgundy maybe. Come in with a dark color. The primary, in this case, we could, ooh, this could be kind of interesting. Secondary, what would the accent be on this one? Yellowish? Yellows are hard to work with. Greens, the accent in this case could actually be a blue. I don't know, that really stands out. I don't love it, but I'm gonna save the theme anyway. And again, it instantly shows up there because there was no error. If I try saving it again, this theme already exists. Please try creating a new one. Now, I have some other things that I want to do for this project, and I probably will have up by the time you go on, but I want to add a functionality to heart themes so you can save the ones that you like. And I think it'd be cool if people were voting for the ones they actually like, that pushes them up higher, but only one vote per one, and stuff like that. So I think that could be a really nice extra feature that we could add that would be worthwhile. But yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, learned a little bit about supabase, and that you're a little bit less intimidated by the whole idea of backend, because supabase really does make it easy along the way. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Big thank you to supabase once again for sponsoring this video and helping support what I do at my channel. And if you want links to a bunch of stuff, it's all down in the description below. And with that, I'd like to say a big thank you to my supporter of Awesome, Johnny, as well as all my other patrons and channel members for their continued support. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.